Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for asking to change my daughter's name? My ex-husband and I had a daughter, 9, while we were married. As such, she was given his surname as it was also mine at the time of her birth. We have since divorced, and I have returned to my maiden name. I have 100% care of our daughter, and am constantly having to explain and prove at doctor's appointments, which we have a lot of, that I'm her mother. I have requested that we hyphenate her surname, so that she has the recognition and connection to both families, noting my daughter would also like to take my name, and has been asking for the change for nearly a year. My ex is refusing to negotiate at all. His reasoning is he is the dad, so in Western culture it's easier for me to explain why our data and I have different names. He has never taken her to an appointment in her life, and I don't see him ever taking her to one. I proposed her taking my family name and having his family name as her middle name. He declined this using the above reasoning. I've offered her hyphenating, so she has both names, which he says he feels is too long, so he won't agree to that either. 13 characters. In response to that, I offered having her legal name hyphenated with both family names, but her everyday known as name as a single name, so she doesn't have to write such a long name all the time. He still says no. Am I the antagonist for pursuing the change through the court, since he won't negotiate at all? Now for the top comments. NTA, check your divorce decree about name changes. If that caveat is not included, you can probably petition the court for the name change. Might be difficult to have your daughter's last name changed to your maiden name, but I think virtually any court would grant the hyphenated last name. So I'd try for the hyphenated last name. Edit to at, I'm referring to last name change for the daughter. Op has already changed her last name back to maiden name. I would be surprised if it didn't mention it. Mine is very clear about it. I'm glad that my mom changed my surname to her maiden name. I have no connection to my father's side of the family, and thus his surname makes no sense to me. Also, just because he technically is her father, he is not really there for her, is he? Like, for his ego. He needs that. But it makes little sense otherwise, if he is not an involved parent. Thank you for your expressing your opinion, based on your actual lived experience. Am I the antagonist for saying what my grandparents said/did was creepy and disgusting? My mom died when I was 6 and my dad got remarried when I was 11. My stepmom has always been really great. She married a guy with young kids, but never tried to take over or place herself into the family where my mom once was. She created a new slot, a different slot, and made it work. But my dad's parents have always been pretty old school in their thinking. They used to see it as disrespectful that we called our stepmom Jane, or that she didn't adopt us. My dad and stepmom's wedding was sort of rushed because Jane was pregnant and my dad was due to have surgery on his back. So they did a very quick courthouse thing. Fast forward and it's about to be 30 years since they married, and my grandparents are giving her shit. I didn't realize at the time, but they had told her she should have worn some of my mom's jewelry, should have made some speech about taking over from her, and tried to lay claim to my mom's life and possessions in some kinda way. They said it would be comforting for us, and show how much she respected her mom, and appreciated that she was taking over for her. The whole thing is so damn weird and gross. I'm talking about to both my mom and Jane. I can't imagine my mom would want dad's second wife taking all the stuff she left behind for herself, instead of it being for her kids. Even more, to make a speech that to me sounds a lot like you stay dead. This is mine now. And for Jane, she's not my mom. She's a different person. She will always be reminded that she only came because of heartache and pain. That she wasn't the first wife. She's not the mother. She's not the one we all have cried for and miss and wish we could have back. It has never bothered her, but I'm sure it was awkward at first to find a place that respected that, while also making her feel like she truly belonged and wasn't second best. But my grandparents essentially wanted her and still want her to become the person our mom was, instead of being her own unique person. On a day where she is celebrating her marriage to dad and not my parents' marriage. So when I heard this being sad and my dad was never aware of what went on, I told them it was creepy to expect her to take over another person's life like that, and that it's disgusting to try and bring someone down for not wanting to disrespect someone else's memory. I pointed out that trying to be them, trying to take over and replace them, is disrespectful and not some great honor. I also told them that Jane never tried to be our mother because she knew, always, that she wasn't, and she never could be, but she could be Jane. And she could be something different but important to our family. My grandparents are pissed. My dad could not believe it when he found out. He was so mad at his parents. Other family members are saying I took it all out of context and that I was the one being disrespectful to my grandparents and to Jane. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. Solidly not the a-hole. 30 years and they are still going on about this? Gross. It is indeed gross. Women are not interchangeable parts to plug into roles. Solid not the a-hole on your part. Thank you for defending Jane and pointing out that Jane never replaces mum, but does act as an adoptive parental figure in your time of need and your growing years. I'm sure your late mother would have been proud of you for the person you are today and would be thankful to Jane for ensuring you grew up into a fine person. Your grandparents are the real disrespectful people and they need to understand that just because someone is gone it does not mean they can be replaced. My friend lost her mother when she was 5 or 6. Her other mum came into her life a few years later. I didn't initially realize that she was a stepmother. I got confused one day when she said something or other. Her mum had died, and I'm sitting on the sofa opposite mum, seeing my confusion. She explained, oh, my biological mother died when I was X year old, but after she passed, she searched the earth and found me, Lana. She realized she couldn't stay, so she found someone who would love me as her own. I thought it was a beautiful sentiment, as through other conversations, I learned that Lana hadn't ever tried to force a relationship. She just went with the flow and was what friend needed. Friend is now pregnant with her first child and mum is thrilled at being a grandma. Friend gets to do all the things that she should do with a mother. I've thought about it a bit over the years and I've come to this conclusion. If you're a parent and you do have to leave your child because of death, wouldn't you want someone to come along and love your child as their own so they don't miss out on a mother-child relationship? We hear of so many awful step monster stories. Wouldn't every mother want their child to think they handpicked the new mum especially for them? Am I the antagonist for not giving up my seat on the airplane? My wife and I were traveling on a 10-hour flight from Europe to Asia last week. We booked our tickets well in advance and also managed to book the specific seats we wanted. 2 seats in the first row in the middle column of seats. It was a Boeing 787 with the seat configuration being 3 columns with 3 seats each. We paid for these seats as it was going to be a long journey and wanted the extra leg space. When we boarded, there was a woman holding a baby seated in the middle seat. We had booked the 2 aisles on the off chance that the middle seat may be empty, but with full intention for me to switch to the middle seat if the passenger wished to sit in one of the aisles and not between us. This woman, before I even had a chance to put my bag in the overhead compartment, asked me, can I be really cheeky and ask you to switch seats with my husband? She then pointed towards her husband sat in the second row on the left side column of the aircraft. Only the first row has extra leg space and requires additional payment to book the seat. She then told me that her husband needs to be next to her to help with the baby. My wife stayed quiet while I politely but firmly told her that unfortunately, as his seat is in a second row, I won't be moving there as I had specifically paid for the seat with extra leg room. She then claimed that she and her husband had paid as well, but they placed him in the second row, which seemed very suspect. Either way, I stayed firm. Then the steward came and requested me to switch with the husband on her behest, and I had to tell him the same thing, making things quite awkward. She then threw daggers at me for some time. The baby started crying after a while as well. Thankfully, the steward came back and told me that there were 2 vacant seats in one of the other first rows and offered to move us. We ended up moving there, but could hear this lady animatedly make comments about us to her husband from behind for some time after that. When I recounted this incident to my in-laws, they said that I should have just moved as she had a baby with her, and that turned into a different conversation about baby expectations. My wife agrees with me that her poor planning is not our problem and that we should have stayed out if there were no other first row seats. Quite coincidentally, read an article about a similar incident that happened with mixed opinions in the comments section. So am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. Why didn't she offer the extra legroom seat to whoever was sitting next to her husband? The front row bulkhead seats on big intercontinental planes have a hookup on the wall, and after the plane reaches 10,000 feet the crew brings out a bassinet and hooks it to the wall for parents traveling with babies. She would have been assigned the bassinet seat for free because she was traveling with an infant, so she could put the baby in the bassinet and not have to hold the baby for 10 hours. NTA. Having a baby doesn't automatically entitle you to whatever you want. Especially because booking is in advance, and they had ample time to do the same amount of planning as you. They tried to spring it on you on the plane hoping to get away with it. Am I the antagonist for charging a mother late fees? Hi. I, 27F, run a home daycare. I've been in operation for over 5 years. Sometimes I still get antsy about enforcing what feels to me like reasonable policies, because people sometimes react so poorly. I have a parent handbook that also serves as a contract. It includes a variety of rules and is very detailed. I have found out the hard way, if there is any wiggle room people will use it. It specifically says that there are fees for late drop-off pickup. I don't charge fees if families give me notice a minimum of the night before, but if the day has already begun and there's a non-emergent reason for lateness I charge fees. I'm a one-person operation and lateness without proper notice can be highly disruptive or even prevent us from doing certain things like going to the park. Frankly, it's also just rude. I have a generous drop-off period that's far longer and later than most local daycares, and unless there is a genuine emergency, and brunch is not an emergency, I don't see why children can't arrive by the cutoff. So a family who is newer, but who did supposedly read the handbook, I mean they signed it, messaged me 20 minutes before the cutoff, and said they'd be 30 minutes late past the cutoff, because they were behind. I informed them it was fine, but they'd be charged. The mom retorted that she didn't think there were fees for late drop-off, and implied she should be able to arrive whenever she liked. I understand some places have open door drop-offs, but many don't, and especially when it's only one operator it's difficult to offer drop-in care. Am I the antagonist for enforcing this? It feels reasonable to me, but late people always seem to indicate it's not. The thing is, I don't really think that the morning schedule should be on hold while we wait for people to have brunch or sleep in. Edit to say, because of the vid, when kids come in we have to take coaches and outside gear off, hand washing etc, and so it's a few minutes plus per child, and that's also assuming the child isn't new upset and taking longer because they're not happy. Because it's just me, certain activities diverting my whole attention for even 5 minutes could mean a huge mess or other issues. I forgive infants and toddlers. Second edit. I just also want to say, I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. My youngest is 10 months. 2 of my kids I came back to work when they were 2 weeks old. I know being a parent is tough. I know shit happens, and if theirs is a truly emergent or good reason for lateness I make exceptions, but I don't really feel just being late because you wanted to sleep in means everyone else's schedule has to be paused. This is a shared environment. Now for the top comments. NTA. I'm not sure what gave you that impression, as this is laid out very clearly in the handbook. Give an inch, they'll take miles forever. I know. The handbook used to be so simple because I didn't want to seem overbearing, but the liberties people have taken over the years are genuinely shocking. There are some people who will simply test boundaries because they know others are uncomfortable enforcing them. People only get away with what you let them. You are already very generous at how you're enforcing your contract. NTA. She signed a contract. She is bound by the terms of that contract. If she signed it without reading, that's not your problem. Stick to your contract. If you let her get away with this, frankly super entitled rude behavior, you'll set a precedent. Charge her. And if she doesn't pay, terminate her as a client. You have a business, not a charity. Wibta. If I don't tell people I've stopped cancer treatment, would I be the antagonist if I, 33F, don't tell my friends and family about my cancer prognosis and decision to stop treatments? For context, I've been battling cancer since 2018. About a year after giving birth to my second child. It's always been one step forward, two steps back. I recently had a full hysterectomy and my gallbladder and appendix were taken out because the lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's, continued to spread. During surgery, they discovered there was another lymphoma in my liver. The prognosis is not good even with aggressive treatment. I talked to my husband about it, and I've made the decision to stop treatments and just live my best life until the end, realizing that will probably be within a year. When I told my mom, she said I was giving up on my children and being selfish. She kept telling me that researchers are making breakthroughs every day and I just need to hang in there a little longer and not give up hope. I don't think I'm giving up hope, but that's a whole other conversation. After my mom's reaction, I talked to my husband and we decided it would be best if we don't tell anyone else about my prognosis or decision to stop treatments. When I told my mom not to tell anyone, she literally called me an asshole and again said I was being selfish because people will want to know so they can spend time with me. But I don't want to spend the precious time I have remaining having people make me feel guilty or pitied. I want to spend my time with my children and husband, not a great aunt or former coworker who will make me obligated to see them so they can say goodbye or ask me to change my mind. To be clear, I'm not asking if I'm the asshole for stopping treatment. That's my decision and it's been made. I'm asking if I would be the asshole for not telling people that I've stopped treatment. Now for the top comments. NTA. I had a friend who was diagnosed with lung cancer at age 40. She spent her last 9 months on earth consoling others, and she hated it. I remember her telling me that she wished she could have won just one conversation with a friend/family member that didn't revolve around her cancer or cancer treatment. She just wanted to enjoy the bit of life she had left and live as normally as possible. No one would let her though. Your life and death should be on your terms. I get your mother is feeling many emotions, it's hard to outlive your child. But she should respect your wishes so that your remaining days are spent as you want them, not as she thinks they should be. One of the things I'm proudest of in my life is the time a friend and his wife came to stay with us for a week while his wife was dying of cancer. They came to our town to spend time going to galleries and seeing beautiful things while they still could. As heartbreaking as it was, we knew we couldn't change her mind about whether or not to get treatment. So instead we drove the couple around and talked art with them. NTA. If they knew they would treat you differently, it would be sad for them to mourn you while you are still living. Yes. OMG. This puts into words what I've been feeling, but didn't know how to say. I don't want them grieving my loss while I'm still alive. As someone who has a family member who died of cancer, lem tell you, there's plenty of time to mourn later. It would be a kindness to take lots of photos for family to have later, to write down recipes your kids love, and to leave letters for them. I promise they'll treasure those words. You don't need to say anything ahead of time. My mom left me a card in with her will. I treasured her unexpected last words. Your family will appreciate these happy times later. Am I the antagonist for getting a custom engagement ring made? I'm a 29-year-old guy and have been with my girlfriend who is 28 for 4 years. We've discussed marriage in the past and it's something we were both interested in, so we knew it was on the cards in the future for us. While at her grandparents' for the family Christmas dinner a while back, I saw some old pictures. Among it was her grandmother when she was younger with a beautiful ring. I learned it was a family ring that a relative had sold to buy drugs and they were never able to get it back. My girlfriend commented how she looked forward to inheriting the ring when she was older and the family lamented the loss. In private, I actually asked her grandmother if I could borrow one of the pictures as it gave me an idea. I got a custom engagement ring made as close to the picture as possible. There are small differences, but beyond that it's very close. It was a little more expensive than I'd been originally planning to spend, but I thought it a nice gesture and the perfect ring all in all. When I proposed with it, my girlfriend was shocked, thinking I'd tracked down a ring that looked similar and happy until I explained that no, I'd had it made. Then she got upset with me. She was of the opinion if I was going to get a custom ring made I should have had her help design it, so it was to her exact taste. I pointed out that she'd said she'd wanted to inherit this ring, and I thought it was a good gesture and a way of bringing the ring back into her family. She disagreed, stating it's not the same ring, so it doesn't hold the same sentiment and I should return it to get a new custom ring. Obviously I can't do that. It's a custom ring, which means there are no refunds, which is upsetting her. I wanted to surprise her with a gesture that I thought would mean a lot, but it backfired. I'm a bit upset that she was happy with the ring until she learned it was a custom ring. We are not yet engaged, as the proposal kind of backfired, as you can all see. Am I the antagonist for doing this? Now for the top comments. There was no backfire. This worked out perfectly. You were able to see her true colors before the marriage. Run, buddy. Run fast. My petty side says tell grandma what happened and offer her the ring instead. Now, your girlfriend liked the ring because it was sentimental, not because of how it looked. A custom ring could have been a moment for the two of you to express your own sentiment and create a new tradition, and also to ensure she'd like it. You thought you were doing something nice, and you meant well. But you didn't listen to her about what made that ring special to her. That was a family member's, not the style or the custom build. You meant well, and honestly it was a great gesture, but you didn't check that it would be an appreciated gesture. Both of you need to communicate better. See if you can sell the ring for profit or what you spent on it to get another one. Literally just calm down. Forget about the money and talk to the girl you want to marry. Awesome comment.